Oh, Dub, how was your first scorecard, mate? How did it go?
Well, it started with a 1.
Oh, what? Yeah.
Welcome to the No Ifs, Putts, or Bogeys podcast. We are a no-nonsense, straight-talking golf podcast discussing all the hot topics in the world of golf. This podcast is also brought to you in association with Barretto Golf, a stylish, affordable golf clothing brand. Please visit barrettogolf.com. That's BARRETO golf.com for all the latest offers. This podcast is also brought to you on behalf of the Golfer Gang Network. Please do go and check out some of the latest golfing podcasts. Without further ado, I will pass you on to your host, Mr. O-Dub.
Good evening, gentlemen. Bit of a stressful last 10 minutes, having major IT issues. So I'm going to be speaking to my work IT department tomorrow to get them to fix my laptop so I can do podcasts on it. No, guys, happy to be here. 6th week now. I'm not in the office with you guys, as you can see, but I'm nearby. I'm on my iPad. Other tablet brands are available. But I'm here and I'm raring to go. Lots to talk about.
Just before we take a deep dive into that, O-Dub, on behalf of me and AB, it's not gone unnoticed since you've joined the podcast. We have grown in terms of the amount of countries that we have been listened in to, if that makes sense. So we are now at 16 countries, ladies and gentlemen. That is the United Kingdom, United States, Germany, Canada, New Zealand, Spain, Vietnam, Austria, Australia, Croatia, Indonesia, Ireland, Italy, Netherlands, Sweden, and Singapore. Now, this one is extremely important because if you happen to be the person in Vietnam who has listened to 4 episodes this week, please reach out to us and let us know who you are, because we want to hear from you guys. I think people think we're making this up. This is not made up. This is genuinely true. Someone is into 4 episodes this week from Vietnam. Let us know who you are. No ifs, putts, or bogeys at Instagram, Barretto Golf at Instagram, or drop me an email at dan@barrettogolf.com. We want to hear from you.
That is amazing. Shalom to my Vietnam brothers. Great. I don't
think that's right, but
I don't actually know who that could be. I don't know anyone in Vietnam.
Well, I don't know anyone in Vietnam either, pal.
No.
They know us, though, and that's what's important. We're bringing light to their lives. And that's great to hear. I love that the podcast has grown 16 countries. How many more to go? 150?
I believe there's like 200 odd countries. When I happened to go live on BBC World News once prior to the Euro 2020 quarterfinal, she told me it was beamed to 188 countries. And I know they don't have quite full global coverage. So I think it's about 200 countries.
North Korea is the one I want. We somehow need to get in there. That would be great.
A video of you and Kim Jong-un playing golf would break the internet, I think. It'd be bigger than Bryson and Trump.
Well, yeah. I mean, more on that later. Shall we kick things off then, guys? The Olympics has been going on, as everyone should know. I did catch a bit of it on the weekend when I wasn't playing. Typical me on the golf course. What do we think then, guys? Any initial thoughts, AB?
Hi, O-Dub. Firstly, before I jump into the Olympics, obviously, I'm back after a week's absence due to a family holiday last week. So I think you boys did quite well without me, but not, some of your stats were a bit questionable, and some of the content was a bit rough around the edges. So I'm back this week, hopefully to steer the ship in a good direction. But the Olympics, couldn't catch much of it because I was still on holiday. But I think following it online throughout the whole weekend, I think it's a very worthwhile event, and it's been a great addition since 2016 to have the Olympics, to have golf within the Olympic format. And I think this is now the third tournament since its reintroduction, and the fields have got stronger with each passing Olympics, and this was by far the strongest. I think pretty much all of the top 20 were there. Loads more nations were represented. It was competitive from start to finish. That sort of exclusivity as well of having a smaller field, but a really competitive field made it an unbelievable spectacle. And I felt the drama even following majority of it online and on my phone, and like watching highlights the following morning. So the only bit I ended up catching live was the final sort of half an hour. I was actually stood in Peyton Zoo gift shop. So shout out to Peyton Zoo. And
if you want to sponsor the pod, you know where we are.
So I tuned in because one of the disappointments for me last week when you did the preview was there was a lack of tips. I don't remember either of you doing any tips, but I actually put money on two golfers, Tommy Fleetwood and Victor Perez. And Tommy finished second and Victor finished fourth. So I got a decent payout, made £110. Unfortunately, Victor made a really good run on the final day yesterday. If he could have just snuck the win, he would have paid for my holiday, which I'd have been really happy about. But alas, placings, so still made a decent profit there. People probably won't believe it because I wasn't on the pod last week to tip it, but I can prove on Sky Bet if needed that I did put money on it. But yeah, I'm a big fan of golf in the Olympics, basically. So yeah, I don't know, DB, you caught a bit more of it than I did. What do you think about it all?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I really enjoyed it personally. Obviously, being big golf fans, it's nice for us to be able to watch it. The grander scheme of things, slightly controversial for a golf podcast. I actually don't really know if I think it should be in the Olympics. However, it was a cracking 4 days of golf.
Yeah.
And it was really good watch. And it was a great competition with a lot of elite golfers. And I don't think you can take anything away from it. I mean, if you look at the top 10 and ties, even it's ridiculous. Scheffler, Fleetwood, Matsuyama, Perez, McIlroy, Rahm, Højgaard, Kim, Connors, Day, Neiman, Dietrich, Schauffele, Clark.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's basically been an additional major this year.
That's as good as you get. And do you know what? I actually, whilst you were in Peyton Zoo, I was travelling home from yet another weekend in Yorkshire and caught the last half an hour on the radio. And it was really interesting listening to the commentary of the last half an hour, because the one thing that the Olympics does that no other golf tournament does was reward you in a way for coming second and third.
Yeah.
So it was obviously Tommy Fleetwood dropped a shot on the 17th, and his approach shot was off the green on the 18th when he needed a birdie. And the commentators were debating whether he should even go for the birdie or whether he should just try and get it dustbin lid to secure the guaranteed silver medal. And it was a slightly interesting dynamic because, not to get too political or downbeat, but Tommy Fleetwood, I believe, is a local Southport lad. And we all know some of the tragedies that happened in Southport in the previous week. He was quite vocal about it on his Instagram and wanting to do well for his local area and give them something to cheer about and take the sort of light off the bad news that had happened. And I think he did just that. He played some outstanding golf. I think he did Team GB extremely proud. He did our country proud. The round that he had, I think it was a 63 or 64 in the end, where he shot 8 under on day 2, was exceptional golf. And he, to be honest with you, he was pretty much up there the whole way around. He
Agreed.
wasn't like he came out of nowhere or anything like that. He was in the top sort of group from start to finish. I think he was 4 under on the first day. I
Yeah,
think he went to about 12 under after day 2, maybe.
yeah. So just to jump in there, even on the final day, he was the best. He had the best score on the final group. So he shot 5 under yesterday, and he's lost by a shot. So
Yeah.
you can say, yeah, he bogeyed 17th. Even he said it. I watched an interview afterwards when he had the medal around his neck, and he was just like, I've done all I could really, and we'll come on to Scotty shortly, but he's obviously cleaned up with I think a 9 under par, 62 was it, 9 under, 8 under, but
Yeah, it was 9 under on the last day.
yeah, so Fleetwood's like done all he could. He shot 5 under on the final day, and yeah, he was thereabouts for the whole weekend. And yeah, echo your comments in terms of what you said about Southport. It was tough to see that he couldn't get the gold after playing so well for 4 days in a row, but he's done everyone really proud, I think. And we're big fans of him on this pod. We've followed him for the last 10 years. We've met him a couple of times at the British Masters, and we generally, I know we haven't tipped him much this year because he's been a little bit out of touch, but generally over that last 10 years or so, we bet on him. I bet on him pretty much every major. So it was good to see him, as you say, get rewarded for finishing second, because that's usually unheard of in the world of golf. But just to also just go back to your earlier point about, whether it should or shouldn't be in the Olympics. So I'll give a little bit of context. So it used to be an Olympic sport about 100 years ago. And then when the sport sort of first started creating majors, and then it basically, I guess, went professional, and the Olympic Committee decided it wasn't going to be in anymore. And so it was reintroduced in 2016 as part of a wider let's grow the game. Now, grow the game is the buzzword in golf at the moment because of all the live stuff. Not going to go into that, but the reason why it was reintroduced back into the Olympics was to grow the game. And then back in 2016 in Rio, loads of big names qualified and subsequently pulled out because of, the famous Zika virus that didn't actually affect the Olympics at all. They just used, golf was one of the only sports that basically just used it as an excuse, and loads of like big name players pulled out, and it took some other big names to just hold firm. So the likes of Justin Rose and Stenson and people like that to say, do you know what, I'm actually a fan of this. I'm going to go and I'm going to do it. And then, they picked up gold and silver there. And then that started the ball rolling. So the last tournament was really good, but this one, it has blown the other two out of the water. I think the quality of the golf, the competitiveness, the fact that there's no prize money on offer, which again we're going to come on to shortly, but the fact that everyone's competing individually for their nation and trying to win a gold, silver, bronze medal just shows exactly where the game of golf is at the moment. And I mean, like I said, I only saw the final half an hour, but I couldn't believe what I was watching. I mean, Scheffler, man.
It was brilliant. I did enjoy it. And not to cut you off, but I'll just quickly explain my workings, because it's obviously potentially seen as some as a slightly odd comment to make on a golf podcast. But I believe in general, to be a sport in the Olympics and to win a gold in the Olympics should signify that you have reached the pinnacle of your sport, because the Olympics is a prestigious event, and to win a gold medal is no mean feat. And I think in golf, regardless of how much of an Olympic legacy it may create for itself in the future, the pinnacle of the sport will always be the 4 major events. And I think that's the same about a lot of the other sports that are involved. So like football shouldn't be in there, I don't think, personally. Tennis is another one, which was a cracking final between Djokovic and whatever. But when you relate it to the athletics, and there's some other events like swimming, cycling, the triathlon, they are the pinnacles of their sport. To win the Olympic gold medal for example, in the 100 meters, is you will never get a bigger moment in your career than that. Whereas if Scotty Scheffler goes on to win a major in the next next year, is probably consider a bigger achievement than to win an Olympic medal.
Yeah, I mean, I hear you and I understand what you're saying, but from a player's perspective, and this is what I mean over the sort of the 3 tournaments since it was reintroduced, people dismissed it and used excuses back in 2016, and we haven't seen that this time around because the big names that have qualified have wanted to go there and get that medal for their nation. So, and there's no prize money, there's nothing. It's just about the glory of getting a gold medal, and they are not responsible for the decision of it being in the Olympics. So, if I was a pro, and I would be adding that to a list of majors. At the end of the day, it's rarer than a major as well because it's every 4 years. So, yeah, it's an interesting debate. I hear what you're saying, and to an extent, I agree with you. But from a player's point of view, they haven't. They're not responsible for the decision of introducing it back into the Olympics. So, I'm all for it, and I think as a spectacle, it was outstanding. It was probably my favorite weekend of the whole year, and I didn't even really watch it. I was just engrossed in it on the online coverage.
On the prize money, AB, that's not strictly true. So it's not, because we were talking about this last week, DB, and I've done a little bit of research today. You'll be pleased to know.
Okay.
So the association, the different sporting associations offer prize money for medals. So any American athlete who gets a gold gets $37,500. For golfers, that's nothing.
Yeah.
Hong Kong pay the most, $768,000 for a gold medal. And in the top 10 list, Spain are actually there at $102. So John Ram would have got something. So yeah, of the 206 nations, 33 nations offer cash as a reward for medals. Some other countries, such as Kazakhstan, offer apartments, and Malaysia offer foreign-made cars, and South Korea offer pensions, and they're cleared of their mandatory military obligations. Son from Spain.
I remember that.
He didn't have to do it because they won the Asia
Yeah.
Cup.
Yeah.
The thing. Yeah.
Okay. No, that's interesting to hear. Thanks for doing some research, Dub. It's great to see you.
One more thing as well. The 4 majors were holding a spot for the winner as well, if it wasn't going to be a big top player.
That is interesting.
Yeah. Oh, and
that is
PGA offer a place for the Players' Championship, that's the unofficial 5th major, right? That's what they say.
Yeah.
And the Century, whatever that is, I'm sure you can tell me.
Yeah, it's a tournament earlier on in the year for the previous year's winners.
So it's acknowledged by the PGA. I mean, so they say they're won it.
Yeah. So good research there, mate. It's great to see your commitment once again to the podcast. Just in terms of the prize money, I guess in a normal golf event, the prize money is put forward by the tour and sponsors, and it's based on where you finish. So if you're first, you win shitloads. If you're second, you win shitloads, and it goes down until if you miss the cut, you win nothing. So I hear what you said about some of the associations will give rewards to their athletes, but it's not necessarily the same as like actually playing a professional golf tournament for prize money.
Because that 37K, that wouldn't even cover a caddy fee, right?
Funny you should bring that up, Odub, because I've got a question. I would be interested to find out, if you want to research this in future, if they had to more than cover the expenses of their caddies. So generally, the caddies and the golfers are self-employed. I would have thought if you were an ordinary athlete for, say, Team GB, the British Athletics Association or whatever it might be, whoever funds Team GB, would cover the cost of your travel, and your accommodation is obviously in like the Olympic Village. Now, would a caddy be considered part of Team GB / Team USA / whoever? Because not all the time would your caddy be the same nationality as you. So that's question 1. Question 2 is, did your caddy have to be the same nationality as you? So did any of them have different ones?
Well, so I can answer that because Matsuyama's
Okay,
caddy
wait.
is
I've got
American.
another question. Question 3 is: so did the golfers have to pay for the caddies themselves? And question 4 is: if they are considered part of the team, did Scotty Scheffler's caddy get some sort of commemorative medal or token or something to take away when he won the gold medal? And did Tommy Fleetwood's caddy get something or other, as they are part of the team?
Yeah, I mean, those are very good questions. Some of them I can answer just in terms of nationalities. That it's their usual caddies, I believe. So Fleetwood had Ian Finnis as his normal PGA Tour caddy, so he's English as well. But Matsuyama's caddy is an American guy, and he was
Okay.
so that he's not Japanese. So
So do you think the
it's just their
Japanese
usual.
Olympic Committee are covering that guy's costs?
Yeah, I would assume so. I mean, yeah, ODub, you can research it. It would have been obviously good, DB, if you'd have shared those questions before the fucking record.
So, sort of just came to me as we were talking then.
Yeah, but yeah, I don't know. All I know is Fleetwood definitely had Ian Finnis, his normal caddy, and Matsuyama, when on the final day was getting instructions from an American guy, and it surprised me because I always thought his caddy was Japanese as well. When he won the Masters, his caddy was Japanese, and they bowed to the crowd. So he must have changed caddy recently. But anyway, we don't want to go down a tangent. ODub can do some research, and maybe we'll provide those answers next week.
The one thing I will say as a hypothesis on the medals, DB. Now, obviously, Scotty winning is one medal, whereas like the 8-man rowing is also one medal, but they'll all have a medal. So surely they've got loads of gold medals knocking around. They'll just give the caddy one as well. Or
well, yeah, I don't know.
I just get one made for him or something.
Well, yeah, like for example, like I don't know if this is the case, but in like the hockey or something like that, does the head coach get like a medal? Or like in the football,
Yeah,
like if you're the manager of the football team,
yeah. In those instances, you get a whole. Yeah, everyone gets
I would call the caddy an integral part of the team. He couldn't play without one. He wouldn't be eligible to play without one.
Yeah.
Therefore,
well, they're not pure gold. They're gold plated. You'd be able to knock one out for $1,000, maybe. I don't know. That's a ballpark figure.
Maybe you can ask your procurement contacts in the industrial world how much it costs to source a gold medal.
I'll also look at how much you can buy everyone got those Olympic torches when we had the Olympics. I bet you can pick one of them up pretty cheap these days. I'll buy that and a gold medal for the next podcast.
Yeah, I'd say so.
I've lost my train of thought now, but yeah, no, I'll do some research, DB, and we'll have a look and answer those questions, sort of, or listeners get in touch if you know the answers to anything. Rory, now he wasn't once again in medal contention, but he said some pretty interesting stuff over the weekend, AB.
Yeah, he was close. So he had a good run on the 4th day yesterday afternoon to get in contention, but then he just, I think he finished 5th or 6th. So
he
just
doubled
outside.
One, didn't
he? And in 2021 as well, he was in the playoff for a bronze, but that was like an 8-man playoff where your man CT Pan ended up getting bronze. So he's tried both times he's been there. He's had 2 good Olympic outings, I'd say. But in terms of his quote, both he and Jon Rahm in their post-match sort of debriefs, interviews, whatever, have said about not playing for money, but it being such an incredible event. So I'll quickly read out what Rory said. So his quote, he says, "I think with how much of a shit show the game of golf is right now, and you think about the 2 tournaments that might be the purest form of competition in our sport, we don't play for money in it." And Jon Rahm, I won't read his one out, but he said something fairly similar. So the 2 events they're referring to there is, from their perspective, it's the Ryder Cup and the Olympics. Now, USA and other people will also play in the President's Cup, which is similar to the Ryder Cup. But from a European golfer's perspective, it's the Olympics and the Ryder Cup, the 2 arguably the biggest events that they now sort of perceive it as, and they're competing just for the glory and for the win and for their nation, as opposed to individual prize money, trophies, anything. They feel part of the nation. Tommy Fleetwood feels part of Team GB. Rory feels part of Team Ireland. So yeah, I think it's quite interesting, and I think it puts the game of golf into perspective. There's a lot of arguments and debates and advertising about prize money and who wins what for winning each tournament, and we've even spoken about how much Scotty's won this year and how much his caddies won. His caddies won more than half the tour because of how many tournaments Scotty's won. But at the end of the day, there hasn't been a leaderboard as good as what it was or what it finished as yesterday. And the fact that, people were just competing for a medal rather than the prize money, I would agree with everything that Rory has said.
It's interesting that those. Oh, go on, Odub.
I was going to say, to put it in a bigger picture, I think the golfers would have more of an issue if the tournaments where they weren't receiving prize money were more regular. So if it's like 1 week on, 1 week off getting paid, then there'd be bigger issues. But I think this, the sort of the Ryder Cup and the Olympics, Olympics is once every 4 years. Ryder Cup is what is that every year? Ryder Cup?
2 years.
Yeah, 2 years. So they're quite sporadic. So it's like you're just playing for your country, that sort of thing, or playing for your continent. And I think that's what makes it special. I think if there was too many more of those sorts of events, then I think there'd be a drop in participation.
Yeah, definitely. And it's certainly interesting that those were the two talking about it just being about the golf and no prize money, because I think it's safe to say they both felt the pressure on, I was going to say major Sunday then, but on the Sunday of the tournament, because up until the 14th hole on the Sunday, Rory had a bogey-free 7 under and he was on 17 under. And at that point, I think 1 shot off the lead, potentially level leader. We're trying to keep track of it. But because of where he was in the field, he was a couple of holes ahead of the other guys. So I think he would have been in the top 2 or 3, and then double bogeyed the 15th. I think he went in the water, but I'm not 100% certain. And Jon Rahm, which potentially the biggest collapse of the week, and there's been a voice note or a sound clip circulating of how gutted he was. He was a bogey-free 6 under through 10, and then went bogey, bogey, par, double bogey, par, birdie, bogey, bogey. So really bottled it. I think he was on minus 20 at one point, which all he would have had to do was just see out the rest of the holes, and that would have been good enough to win.
Yeah, but he was on minus 20 with a 4-shot lead because Fleetwood was on 16. So at this point, Scheffler was nowhere near it.
Yeah, because obviously he shot a course record 9 under, or joint course record 9 under. But Jon Rahm, really bottled it, and I think it hit him hard, didn't it, AB?
It did, yeah. I mean, he sounded gutted. He said he was really disappointed not to get any sort of medal for Spain, and especially from the position he was on the 10th on the final day with that 4-shot lead that we mentioned. But look, I still like Jon Rahm. I don't agree with the decision that he made to go to join Liv. And I think since he's done that, he's said and done a lot of silly things. I still like him as a golfer. It was only almost this time last year that he was leading Europe to Ryder Cup victory. So I don't hate on him too much. I'm not going to kick him when he's down, but you do have to sort of question. So far this year, his performances in the majors and yesterday, which the key thing they're all 4 rounds, whereas he's done quite well on the Live Tour. So he's never finished outside the top 10, and he did get his first win recently, I think the week before the Olympics. But that's quite some collapse. So I don't want to read into it too much, but maybe if he was doing 4 rounds more regularly and playing proper golf, he may not have It's all ifs
Well,
and
yeah.
buts or bogeys, but
Well, yeah, plenty of
Yeah.
bogeys. But he obviously at the point they had a 4-shot lead, he didn't know that Scotty Scheffler was going to join the course record, which is 62. Good little stat here from DB. And although I don't, stats corner is not usually mine, I would say in the world of professional golf, these are potentially the only twin brothers that may ever exist with this record. So Nikolai Højgaard shot 62 at some point this week at the golf course that they played at, which I won't try and say what it's called, but it's called
Le Golf National.
Yeah, they called it here something else. But anyways, his brother, it's called San Quintin and Yvelines or something like that. That must be the town where it is or something. His brother, Rasmus Højgaard, also owns the record by shooting 62 at the French Open in 2022. So I don't think there will ever be a pair of twin professional golfers of that level that will play a professional golf course in a tournament that will shoot a course record ever again. I don't think.
That is a great stat. Doesn't he play up front for Man United, DB?
They are the same nationality, aren't they? They're Danish. Is he Danish?
Yeah, Danish.
Odub's done a funny there.
Yeah, well done,
just for benefit of the tape and the benefit of the listeners, no, that isn't the person that plays for Manchester United. Manchester United strikers Rasmus Højlund, and DB is talking about Rasmus Højgaard.
I bet they're mates though, being elite Danish sportsmen. I bet they're buddies.
Yeah, speaking of that, actually,
they're quite
Victor Hovland roomed with Casper Ruud for Team Norway. One plays tennis, one plays golf.
Nice.
So, thanks for explaining who Casper Ruud was, because I didn't have a clue.
Yeah. There you go. See,
he's a coach at Man United. Right.
Fuck's sake.
Xander, we had to talk about Xander after his the Open.
Yeah, well, I think we're waffling on a little bit about the Olympics here, but just to round off quickly, we did after the Open Championship, we did a Scotty versus Xander. Who do we think's had the better season? And I don't know. I can only speak for myself. I can remember that I said Xander has had a better season.
We all said
won the Open. Yeah, so I'm going to change my mind because Scotty has added an Olympic medal to the Masters, the Players, 5 other wins, £30 million in prize money. He's the number one. He's been the number one for the whole time. So I'm going to flip-flop my opinion and change my answer, Odub. And Scotty has had the better season. And I don't think we need to debate this point anymore. The only thing left to come is the FedEx Cup, but Scotty will have so much points, he'll probably win that as well. So
I'm just going to not flip-flop my answer, but I'm going to sit on the fence a little bit and say that if golf doesn't create a bigger future legacy in the Olympics moving forward, so say it's only at, say, the next 2 and then doesn't continue on as an Olympic sport, the Olympic Committee decide it's not going to be there, then I think Xander's potentially still had the better year, because the history books will show 2 majors versus 1 major. But if golf goes on to be like, builds on the success that it had this weekend and goes on to be like a real legacy sport of the Olympics, and it's like a real prestigious event, then I think in years to come, it will be difficult to say that Xander had a better year than Scotty this year.
I think on the legacy, you can't really see the Olympics removing golf now. Now they've got, the biggest names in the world playing, and like we sort of mentioned about the prize money, it's the federations that are paying it, and the players are willing to do it. Why would they get rid of it? And especially the spectacle we saw on the weekend, there's no reason for, how often do BBC?
Yeah, I mean, the next Olympics is in Los Angeles, so it'll just be at probably the LA Country Club where the last US Open was.
Really quick one, because this is obviously, we follow all golf here. When's the women's golf? Has that been yet?
It starts this Thursday till.
Love it. Well, we'll
Yeah, the-
recap that
the
next
last
week.
day.
Stay tuned.
Is it not
Big up Charlie
Wednesday? I
Hull.
think it's Wednesday, isn't it?
Is it? It starts on the 7th, whenever the 7th is. I don't know what day it is today. So
That's the set. I was right. Yeah, I said Wednesday last week, and I'm
okay, so
still
7th to the 10th.
Yeah.
Shout out to Charlie Hull. If you ever want to come on the pod, you know where we are.
More than welcome. And if you Charlie, if you want to sponsor as well, that'd be great. Feel free.
She's got a deal with Malbon Golf, mate. I think she's doing all right.
We could be the official podcast of her. Any more on the Olympics, guys?
No. I think
Come
we've
on,
covered it
O-Dub.
all. Let's
We know
get
you're
to
chomping
the
at the bit here.
O-Dub's just politely asking if we can move on because the next bit's all about him.
As they'd say in France, the pièce de résistance. Oui. So, guys, as you know, I do a golf podcast because I'm on it now, but I don't actually play golf. Well, that all changed this weekend when I visited the Star College par 3 in sunny Gloucestershire. Now, Star College is where Harvey Price used to go. So it's a par 3, as the name suggests, and I think some of the students sort of help maintain it with the groundskeeper and stuff. It's really nice, like picturesque, like woodland area, like a bit like Torrey Pines, like a shit Torrey Pines. Yeah, me and my good pal Wommass, who I've mentioned a couple of times, played it. Now he's left. His name's Will Thomas Wommass.
So what have you done there then? You've just put his first name and
It wasn't actually a nickname I gave him, as someone else, but so he's done a voice note of a summary, which I'm going to play. If you can just sort of nod if you can hear it, okay, and then we can talk about it, and I can take your questions, guys. So here we go. Oh, hang on. We'll try it now, guys.
It's Dub T here, aka Wommass, aka Will. Firstly, I just want to say hi to AB and DB. Big fan of the podcast, so that's a real honour. And really hope to meet you both soon. It was great to see you yesterday, O-Dub, and it was a pleasure to be the one to pop your cherry and take you on your first 18 holes. I have to say, I'm very impressed with what I saw for a first-time golfer. You really showed up and got into the spirit of the game. Just looking at the scorecard now, and from yourself, there's a lot of 4s and 6s, which isn't easy with a course like the one we played. At the end of the front nine, we were both tied for 49 each. Me having a particularly bad hole on the second, getting into an altercation with some rough. But O-Dub here, he had a consistent performance throughout. Notable hole was the 5th, where our star of the day found a new love for the 8-yard in, laying up right in front of the green. And a chip after this just left a long putt for par, which sadly was a missed shot, leaving only a bogey to be secured. But it was secured, and it's a valiant effort regardless, and a lot to be proud of there. Back nine, I think this is where a lot of lessons were learned about golf. Like that sometimes a ball does not want to be putted in the hole, no matter how much you curse at it. Or that sand is only fun when you're playing on the beach. I'll let O-Dub tell you about his quarrel with a bunker. Overall, I think you're going to make a fine golfer, and there's some natural talent there. I can't wait to see you with that 4-iron on a bigger course. I had a great time, and I can't wait to do it again soon. Lots of love. Up the pigs.
There we are, guys.
Well, first of all, thank you very much, Wommass. The first observation I've got is he sounds like a very articulate, well-spoken chap. So what the fuck's he doing playing rugby with you, O-Dub?
He's actually it's only his first season last year, so he's more of predominantly a second teamer, which he'll happily admit. But he plays on the wing, but he puts his body on the line, shall we say. He's a great lad. He's only 28. He's only a young boy that I've taken under my wing, you know. But he was one of the Benidorm 5, and now he took me out on the golf course. So yeah, guys, questions. Happy to answer.
Well, the first question is, before we start breaking down the details of the voice note, because I'd love to hear all about your trusty 8-iron, your chip and putt attempt for par. Did you get a set of golf clubs? Did you borrow them? Were they at the course? How has this come about?
I'm now in the possession of some golf clubs off the aforementioned Wommass, and a bag that his neighbour was thrown in the bin.
right. What brand are we talking here?
There's some ping irons in there. I was trying to remember earlier when I was looking at it. I'll have to. I'll write them all down and say what I've got. But I've got 3 wood, 2 wood, 9 iron, 8 iron, 7 iron, 4 iron, 2 wedges, maybe a sand wedge, maybe a pitching wedge. I don't really know the difference. They both say W on them, and a putski.
Oh, it's good. It's not bad. Very generous of Wommass to.
Yeah, I'm
sort you out
hoping
some
to get.
stuff.
I'm hoping to get donated another set, so I'm just going to try and mix and match. And I regularly go to a local car boot where they're always selling clubs, so I might top up my bag that way. But yeah,
did you get yourself a glove? Did you buy balls? Did you use tees? Like, what other sort of accessories did you go around with yesterday?
well, thanks for your question, AB. So I bought some balls off reuseballs.com. Shout out to Ricky, our listener, who recommended that company. I will say, if you're listening, Reuse Balls, I did click for no marketing, but I've been absolutely bombarded with your emails. I send about 5 a day. There we are. Yeah, and I bought a glove. Wilson.
Shout out to them if they want to sponsor the pod, by the way, because they could spend their marketing budget more wisely.
Yeah, absolutely. Get involved, guys.
Also, just on the ball. So, how many did you buy off his website?
I bought 12, and I came home with 9. But there's a funny story about that.
That's not a bad effort, mate.
Well, I think I picked up a ball of another player, and he was looking for it. Now, I don't know. I don't think
you're not familiar with the etiquette.
No.
Yet.
So the way this Torrey Pines of the Cotswolds is set out, the fairways crisscross around each other, and the guy hit a pretty wayward shot. I didn't know at the time, right next to my ball, and I walked past it and thought, "That's not my ball." Picked it up, put it in my bag, and walked 2 feet to my ball because I thought, "Well, these balls are expensive." And he was looking for it, and I was like, "Oh, I don't know where it is, mate." And he just thought he went in the bush behind us. So shout out if you're listening. I'm sorry about that.
Oh my God,
that's right, mate. These things happen. You'll learn as you go.
But yeah, I bought a glove. I didn't have any tees, but Wommass brought some tees for me, so that was good.
Right. My next question, ODub, is obviously I know you're huge on mindset. Being a rugby player, you've worked on this a lot over the years. How did you mentally prepare for your first round of golf?
So I just tried to go into it with a clear head, open mind. I didn't really know what to expect. Obviously, I've never been there before. I actually drove into the Star College and got lost. It was absolutely massive. There's some funding going on down that way, which is great. But yeah, just open mind, really. I mean, the first tee was alongside the car park, so I was really conscious I didn't want to smash a ball into a car. So that was on my mind initially. Yeah. I haven't really watched any YouTube or really know how to hit a golf ball. I was just sort of thinking about what you guys have said on the podcast before about, like, with my swing, like ending up looking where I want the ball to go and that sort of thing. So I was thinking of you guys in those moments. So
is there any footage of this that we can put on socials for the listeners?
Well, yeah, I've got a couple of vids which I can send across. I want to go to a driving range next and just get there, sort of try and get my contact of hitting a ball pretty. I mean, we're all amateur golfers, but it was just pretty erratic, especially the back nine. Maybe when I was fatiguing a little bit. But I hit some nice shots. Some of them, what Wommass described is like you play golf for like 1 or 2 shots where you hit and you go, wow, that really felt good. And I had a couple of those during the day where I thought, I've hit that how I wanted to hit it, and it's gone in a rough area of where I wanted to go, which made me feel good.
Yeah, I know the feeling, mate. So not to detract from your achievements there, but just in terms of chasing the perfect shot, I hit, before I went on holiday, the last round I played, I hit a 6-iron, 220 yards between a row of trees. That was, I think, after 4 years of golf, the cleanest I've ever hit a golf ball. And out of the amount of rounds I've played, it is a feeling that you just constantly chase, especially when you're an amateur, because pros will hit it like that all the time. But if you've, after one round around this par 3, like got the bug of chasing that sort of, I want to hit a golf shot, like a perfect golf shot, then you've got the bug, my friend, and you're going to be on the range, on the course again in the future, I feel.
I have to say, I've actually seen a clip of Odub swinging what I think was the trusty 8-iron shot that Wallace was referring to.
That's it, yeah.
And it actually looked like genuinely quite a smooth, nice tempoed swing, which for a big rugby lad like yourself was quite refreshing to see, Odub. I thought you were going to try and muscle it around the course.
I thought there was, not just in political views, but a lot of similarities between myself and Donald Trump from that video, how it looks completely awkward, but the outcome looks good.
Yeah.
So, shout out to Trump if you want to sponsor the pod.
I wonder how Donald would get on the Tory pines of the Cotswolds. That is the number one question.
He's played with his brother-in-law who plays off 5 handicap, and he said he struggled because the greens are so small, like they're tiny. They're probably
would
like
that
what?
Be known as like similar to the postage stamp? Do you
They're
think,
all. It was 18 postage stamps, yeah. But I've got a real bad, not bad, but left to right. Is that a fade, draw? Which one's that?
Left to right is a fade.
Yeah.
Forward smash, slice.
Like when I whack it, it goes right. So that's something I need to work on. But I've got like the raw attributes. I've got the power. As you know, I'm a big boy. But it's just, I want to get on I want to get on the range next and just try and get a bit more consistent with how I'm hitting it, because I want to go through steps in my head about what I'm doing and not just like, I'll do my practice swings and then I'll try and whack the ball. I want to get that motion of, where I want my feet to be, shoulders and all that, and get that sort of how I want, sort of consistent, and I'm going to get more consistent results, I think.
Look, I'm just going to say, I can hear the enthusiasm in your voice, and I, for one, am fucking loving it. This is what this podcast is all about, guys. We're bringing new people into the game, and we're growing the game of golf. So I know there's a lot of people that listen to this podcast that don't actually play golf, but if you ever wanted to try it out, take inspiration from our host, Odub. Go give it a whack, and I'm sure you'll be sure to have a good time. And just before we round off, Odub,
and get in touch with us as well, because we'll come and play with you if you're a first timer.
Yeah, and if people have got illusions about there's boundaries and stuff, like, I mean, this was 12 quid. You rock up. There's loads of people like AB, for example, who started off with a crap pair of golf clubs and slowly worked his way up. So you can pick some up on Facebook and stuff, like really cheap. Other social media sites are available. So there's no real barrier. And there's options. You don't have to go to a really nice plush course and play a round of 18. You can do driving range, you can do par threes, you can do pitch and putts everywhere. So I've certainly, the more I've looked into it, it's more accessible than, because it can be really intimidating, isn't it? If you rock up a golf course, you never played golf before.
It certainly can.
And you can
just
also
before
buy
we round off, Odub,
cheap golf clothes from BurrowGolf.com.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they sponsor this podcast. Check them out. Did we get a final score? Did we keep score of all 18 holes?
Yeah, I got 107 on the par 3.
Well, that's something to work towards. Break the 100 the next time you go.
There was a dogleg par 4 as well, which I had one of my balls, which was pretty tricky. And that I hit a 10 on there. I just couldn't get out of the bunker, because I've never been in a bunker before other than Perranporth Beach. I just couldn't get out of it.
We've all been there, mate. Yeah, it's part of golf, but you live and you learn, and it sounds like you had good fun, and I would assume you will be partaking in more holes of golf soon.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely.
Good man. Well, boys, not that I'm trying to cut this off, and this has never happened to me before, and a little bit sloppy, but I'm going to run out of battery. So should we round this up quickly?
Yes. Yeah, well done, Odub. Glad you had a good first experience, mate. Look forward to hearing more. We'll have to get a round in, the three of us, and bring some more content to the podcast. But good pod, boys. Let's catch up next week.
Cool, guys.
Yeah, thanks very much for messaging in, Wallace. Really appreciate that.
Yep, cheers.
Come back with 9 balls is pretty good, mate.
I think that's impressive, bud. Certainly more than AB most Saturdays.
Yeah, there was some. Just I got to stage where I lost a couple. I was just like, I can't go up to it. And also I nicked someone else's ball as well. So I was less inclined to recover my 12, but yeah, still got most of it.